Um, So, what's the number one thing that C-suite professionals and entrepreneurs should understand about issuing tokens for an ICO?
Well, I think one of the most important and critical things they need to understand is it is not the Wild West. We've seen many ICOs, token launches, they have complete disregard for investor protection, the rules and regulations, even though it's an unregulated market, very much so. You know, my biggest piece of advice for C-level type guys is first and foremost catch up and understand the technology. Secondly, if you want to go an ICO, especially here in the United States, I would recommend that the token issuer adopts the thinking that their token is a security from the get-go. Why do I say that? Because it makes everybody else's life easier. Because then you know from the beginning you're going to be going a regulated path to raise funding. You know, so, you know, my biggest piece of advice would be to slow down, actually. Slow down, make sure you're ticking all the right boxes. Raising funding is not easy. You know, I've dealt with many people who come to raise funding and seem to think it's a stroll in the park. It's sleepless nights, it's hard work, it's months of preparation. And, you know, just looking at recent data, 59% of token sales that took place in 2017 have disappeared. What does that mean? They're no longer functioning, their social presence has disappeared. So, you know, some people will say, well, 59% is better than expected. But to me, it's worse, you know, than expected, because among those people who raised cash, some of them, you know, they were planning to scam people from the get-go. That's why we've seen some that once the money's raised, their GitHub accounts, if you look at their smart contracts, disappeared, their Facebook account, their Twitter, and so on. So getting back to the question, is understand what you're getting into, and another thing, understand how to play the game. And I don't mean that in a negative way, using the word game. I mean, it's a serious business raising serious amounts of money.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that the SEC is pretty eager to shut down fraudulent ICOs. What are some good ways for entrepreneurs to stay compliant without discouraging investors?
Well, it's you know, it's not about discouraging investors, it's about protecting them. Now, you can launch a token sale, throw caution to the wind, and off you go. It's not about repercussions today, it's repercussions in the years going forward. You know, I mean, there are times when actions are brought against issuers, I'll call them, 2 years down the line. Now, you know, let me just refresh something here. And I mean, you know, your question about a compliant route, very simple. Follow the rules. You know, don't bend them, follow them. I mentioned earlier in the conversation, a security, if you conduct a token sale based as a security token, you're not going to have the regulatory bodies knocking on your door, unless, of course, you make false statements and misrepresentations and so on and so forth. You know, on the subject of US investors, by the way, what we're finding, or what I'm finding, is many token issuers are completely ignoring the US investor. In other words, they are not included. If they attempt to purchase through a token sale because of IP address, you know, geographic IP location, won't allow them to do that. But of course, you know, it's like anything. People will always try a way to work around these roadblocks that are placed in front of them. It's a reality. So, you know, if you want to be fully compliant, stick to the rules. Generally, what is happening is people are recommending that issuers of tokens today follow the Jobs Act, crowdfunding exemptions, rules and regulations. We have 3 different types of equity crowdfunding regulation. One is regulation crowdfunding, you can raise up to $1 million. We have Reg A Plus, you can raise up to 50 million, and we have Reg D, which is a accredited investor sale only, where you can raise unlimited amounts. But of course, you have to file certain documentation and so on. You know, US investors, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, are being excluded from many of these token sales, as are Chinese investors, because as we know, there was an ICO ban in China. And they, you know, these token sellers, they still, many of them raise their funding cap just from external investors outside the US borders, yeah.
So what lessons do you think could be learned from companies like Riot Blockchain, which is facing a class action investor lawsuits after swiveling from biotech to blockchain?
Yes, and they weren't the only ones. As we know, the Ice-T, New York Ice-T, I forget the name of the company, but they changed their name to include blockchain, and they also, their share price shot up. What do I think about it? My recommendation personally is I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't change the name of my business to leverage off of a new industry. Because to me, that's a form of manipulation. I mean, we speak of class action. You know, I don't know the details, but, you know, does it seem right to most people that a company all of a sudden changes its name to include blockchain so that their share price will increase? You know, I wouldn't advise doing that because there's repercussions, which we're seeing right now. It would be very easy. I did a little experiment, by the way, on LinkedIn. I changed my name to include blockchain. So my name read Shane Blockchain Liddell. And you won't believe that what a difference it made to my presence on LinkedIn. All of a sudden, my searches went up 300%. So people were finding me. All of the numbers went crazy. I mean, I had 300–400% on one metric, 500–600% on another increase. And I conducted that little experiment over probably a 10-day period, and sat at the end of it and said, what a difference it makes to include blockchain in your name. Now, that was on one platform. Now, you can understand the benefit of a corporation or a you know, fair-sized public company changing their name. It does make a difference. Is it going to last a long time? As in, I'll tell you what happened. Others today now call themselves Mark Blockchain, whatever, on LinkedIn. I set the trend, I believe. And people said to me afterwards, oh, but, you know, it's a form of flattery. When we copy your, you know, we copy what you've done, it's a form of flattery. It was purely an experiment. My name now reads back to Shane Liddell on LinkedIn. And I was just inquisitive to find out why or what the effect was. I think we're finding companies understand the effect it has. Public companies, you know, to me, they're looking for trouble if they're trying to manipulate their share price by inserting a word into the name of their business.
Yeah. So that's all the questions I've got. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I would like to just sort of end off saying that, look, this new industry, very exciting. What caught people's attention? was last year, June, July. We started to see huge numbers being raised by ICOs. Prior to that, very small numbers in comparison. What brought blockchain and crypto to the forefront was the numbers that we saw being raised. It attracted a lot of attention, great for the business, great for the industry. People have flooded into the market. Of course, it will mature as we go forward. But I'm going to say this is my personal opinion, cryptos are here to stay. We have a lot of people out there, oh, it's a fad, it's a bubble, it's a this, it's a that. Cryptocurrencies in tandem with blockchain are here from now going forward. And I would bet money on that in 2 years' time, we will have a conversation and there will be cryptocurrencies. Yes, the industry will be more regulated, which can be a good thing. And in fact, I'm very pro-regulation because it validates the industry. And then we start to get a lot more serious investment. We get institutional investors and so on. So I'm rooting for regulation, but I've always stated that I believe regulators should adopt a gently approach, because if you don't, people will flock to other jurisdictions, as is happening today. I speak to a lot of token issuers that will exclude US markets and they will leave the US and go set up in other jurisdictions, Switzerland, London, wherever else. The one thing I would say about US regulators is they need to tread carefully that they don't force a mass exodus of innovation in this particular space. And that's all I've got to add. I hope it's enough.
It is. Thank you.
Okay.